We are back for another Christian review of regular books, and today we are going to be talking about The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. For those of you who have never been to one of these reviews before, what you need to know is that I do my regular review first, what you know and love to expect from a book review. Then I'm going to get into my Christian review, and that's where I'm going to go over basic pieces of a book that may or may not have a fellow believer or anyone wanting to read it. However, if you're wanting more information about these Christian reviews, there is a video that's pinned to the very top of this playlist, so go ahead and click on over there and check out that first video, which gives you all the information about these reviews. But for now, let's go ahead and get into my regular review. I read The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead a few months previous, and I loved the book and loved the experience of reading that book. And so I was excited to check out another one of Colson Whitehead's books. However, my experience with both books was kind of equal in the fact that you really have to have pre-working knowledge of the time and what they were experiencing in order to get the most out of the story. Colson Whitehead writes in a way that's very poetic and not very linear, and so you can end up missing a lot of information if you don't already know a bit about the storyline. Specifically in this book, the topics that are discussed are the Underground Railroad, which is a pretty common thing here in the United States to know some history about, but also what happened on the other side of the Underground Railroad, that once they got to the northern states, how they were treated and how it wasn't all just rainbows and butterflies, but that actually a ton of African Americans, or at that time, former slaves, were treated in a way that was still super, super poorly. And it covers the fact that there was actually a whole study around Black people receiving syphilis and then being treated or looked at or studied because they didn't want to test it on white people, so they tested it on Black people and lied to them about it. This book does cover that in detail, so I was really grateful for that information because I've heard about it before, but I don't think that a lot of people have. And I think that's what Colson Whitehead does super well, is he touches on things that a lot of people in the United States may not know was happening with Black people after slavery was abolished, or even during the time of the Underground Railroad. Ultimately, I think that this book was beautiful, and I think it told a lot of really important stories, but due to the writing style of Colson Whitehead, and specifically in this book, I think a lot of the time traveling elements and the multiple characters, I ended up rating it 3.25 stars. Now let's go ahead and get into my Christian review. The first category I always love to touch on is smut or spice because it's very common in a lot of books, and Colson Whitehead doesn't write about that. He often talks about, however, sexual abuse that happens in these books, and this one does have discussions around it or how women were mistreated. It gives enough description for you to feel empathy and compassion without being a full scene of what happened. However, if that's something that's triggering or uncomfortable for you, this may not be the book for you. The other category that I think is super important to touch on is the category of explicit language. Now, Colson Whitehead is intentionally writing using racial slurs to get your attention. It's to get you to understand how people were treated in that time frame. And so he uses the N-word. He uses these very aggressive words that can feel super extreme to read. This is not a book to go in to get an idea of history but not get the detail. Colson Whitehead will 100% make you feel like you're in it, and he's done that in both books that I've read by him. So it's something to keep in mind if that's something you are not comfortable with. The right age range for this book is 18 and up. It definitely tackles some very difficult topics, and I don't think that it's something that you would want your teenager to be reading about, definitely not on their own. If you feel like this is an important topic that you want to discuss with your teenager, then maybe 16 and up, read it together, have a conversation, and make sure that it's something that you guys can openly dialogue about, because there's definitely some heavy topics in there that you probably don't want to send your teenager off to experience and process through on their own. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so that you can stay involved with everything going on with Christian reviews of regular books and the Journey We Share podcast. And don't forget that we don't want to end the conversation here. Leave a comment down below about other books you may want me to read and review, or send us an email at hello@trochia.org to continue the conversation in anything that I said today or in any of my previous reviews. Can't wait to see you on the next one.